Coming up on this episode of the Hitstreak.
You can now take a Nashville newscast, pluck it up, and take it to any city in the U.S. and drop it down, and no one would know the difference, right?
Yeah.
And I think we live in such a unique and historic and significant area. We need to identify with that. We need to turn back and start looking in on that, and start capitalizing on that, and start having conversations about why.
A smile can do more than brighten a face. It can rebuild a life. Smiles for Recovery is a nonprofit restoring confidence and dignity for individuals recovering from substance use by providing free, compassionate dental care. Addiction often causes serious dental damage, leading to pain, isolation, and lost opportunities. Smiles for Recovery changes that. Through a growing network of volunteer dental professionals, they offer cleanings, extractions, and full restorations, empowering people to re-enter the workforce, reconnect with loved ones, and literally rebuild their lives. Every single smile tells a story of healing, strength, and second chances. You can be a part of that story. Whether you're a dentist, a donor, or someone who believes in second chances, your support changes lives. Visit smilesforrecovery.org to learn more and get involved. Together, we're restoring smiles and renewing lives. Whoa. Check this out. Some of the world's biggest success stories started with nothing. Just grit, hustle, and a story worth hearing. So if you've clawed your way up, if you've built something out of nothing, if you've got a story that people need to hear, folks, this is your shot. The Hitstreak isn't just a podcast. It's a platform not just for top performers. It's also a platform that takes real stories from underdogs, builders, and dreamers, and it puts them on the map. Your story, your brand, your breakthrough. Apply now to be a guest. We'll put you in front of millions of viewers worldwide. You'll get pro-level content, high-level exposure, and a seat at the table with people who've been there and made it out. I'm not only looking for polished top performers. I'm looking for real stories from real people. If you've been through the fire and came out stronger, you belong on this show. Apply now. This is your moment. Email management@nickhyder.com or comment or DM the word Hitstreak to apply. The Hitstreak is where rags to riches stories have been told, and the next one could be yours. Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I've got an extra special treat joining me in the Hit Lab today. And this dude needs a proper introduction. So buckle up and let's do this, right? So check it out. Today's guest, he spent 3 decades as one of Nashville's most recognizable faces in local news, waking up at 1:30 a.m. every day, anchoring live broadcasts and becoming a household name across Middle Tennessee. But after 30 years behind the desk, he did something bold. He literally walked away. Not into quiet retirement, though, but into reinvention. At 58 years old, he chose to hit reset physically, mentally, and spiritually. He signed up for an Ironman 70.3 triathlon, overhauled his health with cutting-edge peptides and supplements, and helped build a booming aesthetic business with his partner, Carrie. Also, a former Hitstreak guest. He now journals with intention, does push-ups before sunrise, and is living with more purpose than ever, not slowing down, but actually speeding up. Today, he's here with a message for anyone staring down the dreaded midlife question, is this all there is? The answer? Not even close. Ladies and gentlemen, the most mysterious and interesting man in Middle Tennessee, my dude, Neil Orne. Neil, how we doing, baby?
Nick, that was probably one of the nicest intros I've ever had. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be here. You have grown this thing, and you have blown up in this world, in this platform, and I got to tell you, it got some nerves going right now because more people will see this podcast than probably a year of TV in town. That's the reality of this format.
That's a beautiful reality, if I don't say so myself.
Absolutely. It's where it's TV without rules now. It's where everything's going right now. So this is kind of cool for me. I feel like big time. Hi.
Rules are good until they're not the right rules.
Right.
Yeah. We were talking back before we started filming today, And the life that you live for 3 decades, as impressive as it is, it felt a lot like a glamorous prison by the time you were done, I would think. Yeah.
That's an interesting description. It was an amazing thing. It was an amazing experience. I loved the people I worked with. Being live on the air every day for 3-4 hours is something that your adrenaline's always going. You never know what's going to happen. No days are alike, but it takes a toll. It really takes a toll. It was a joke that I was on possum patrol because driving to work every morning, the only thing out there was wildlife. And now that it's been almost 6 months since I left,
wow,
it's almost a distant memory now. Trying to put myself back in that position. I'd get up at 2:00 the other morning, and I thought, how did I do this for 30 years?
That's my main question today. Is literally you got up at 1:30 a.m. every day. Like, folks, check this out, because we all have, at my house, we have 2 kids. Okay. So it's the American dream. It's easy. But it's not, right? It's a beautiful mess. 15-year-old about to be 16, daughter just turned 4. One of the things that my wife and I are always pushing ourselves is, we get pulled in so many directions. Okay. Right. Rightfully so. But at the end of the day, a lot of our competition is younger. They may not have kids. They may not have the personal things, the responsibilities that we have.
Right.
So I ask my wife all the time, remove the personal responsibilities and the kids. What would we have done today professionally? What would we have done today for personal development? And I would say that it's our job to figure out how to do those and the responsibilities with the kids. Yeah. But because I feel like, at least I did for a while, and I feel like there's a lot of people out there that would do the same. We let our family, our personal responsibility take away. I think you can have it all, Neil. I really think you can have it all. And that's kind of why you're here today.
Yeah. It was, it's a trade-off when you're doing what I'm doing. Like, even when my girls were little tiny girls, they were going to bed later than I was. And it was just, I always felt like I was making a trade-off between work and my personal life. And it was a decision that I made. I stuck with it for a long time. If I could go back and change things, I probably would.
Yeah, that was a big question. So your daughters are 15 and 18 now, right?
They're unbelievable people, and it's amazing watching them turn from kids into young adults. And now my oldest, Carly's going to the University of Tennessee next year. And,
there we go.
Watching that happen right in front of your very eyes, you're like, what happened? How did you turn into such a wonderful person? And it's just a joy to watch them. It really is.
Well, so 15 and 18.
Yeah.
So if you're doing the math, they came along about halfway through your journey in TV.
Sure.
And you were always in the morning? Were you always in the morning?
I went to evenings for a year and a half.
Okay.
And I begged to go back to the mornings.
Okay.
The idea of waking up and spending most of your day getting ready to go to work at 1:30 in the afternoon was so unappealing to me.
Okay.
And then you'd get home and you wouldn't be able to go to sleep till 2:00 in the morning. So I like the schedule of getting my work out of the way in the morning and then having the rest of the day to do whatever I wanted. It took a huge toll on me. I don't think there's really any decent shift in that industry. So you don't make your own hours. The work makes your hours.
Well, and the 8 to 5 is, let's just say let's say it's just half the population. I have no idea what it is. It's less now than it used to be, right? But 15 years ago, it was probably 70 or 80% of the population. Yeah. So they were at work. You couldn't do what you do because they're at work. You had to work around them, right? So that would be a crazy challenge, because if you don't want to work for the man, you can't expect to work the man's hours, right?
I was always amazed. If we said something at 4:00 that resonated, the amount of people that would respond. I was like, a lot of people are up at that hour, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. The world's become so complicated that the only time you get by yourself these days is those early morning hours. And that became kind of, the relationship between a morning viewer and the anchor is a very special relationship, because you're literally the first face they see in the morning. Yeah. And to have the trust that they come to you for their news and for just general entertainment, or just to have in the background while they get everyone's ready, it was a true honor to have that.
Yeah.
I miss that. I do miss that. It was the interaction going back and forth between, especially the 4 a.m. viewers.
Oh yeah.
Was something special to me, and I never didn't appreciate it.
It's literally like the folks that have to get up that early and the folks that sleep that don't have to get up that early. It's literally like two different origins of people, two different countries. It's that different. I think, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's so many of my friends actually had no idea I was still in television news, because if you get up at 7 o'clock, 7:01, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm out. I might pop up here or there for a few minutes, but that's pretty much my day. So to have your day over and done with by 7 o'clock in the morning is kind of bizarre, right?
Absolutely. You're literally, although you were always driving backwards from rush hour in this town, that's pretty cool.
I never had a problem when I commute. Matter of fact, I would get severe road rage the few times I would get caught in traffic. And it's like, now I'm in traffic all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's wrong with the city? Can't we fix this? Isn't there something we can do? Now I get it. I think people are tired of me complaining about traffic now. I never used to. It was fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Empty roads.
Well, I want to stay on, again, going back to the family thing, because, I think, so I had a revelation last night when I was sitting on the couch, and I was like, man, the people closest to you in at any moment in life are the people that you share your dreams with,
right?
The people that you dream together with, right? And I think that's where most marriages fall apart, whether it be, or relationships in general, whether it be because of kids or whatever else. But you get so busy, you stop dreaming. You stop working on that future, that target or that goal that you're setting together that everybody can move forward towards.
Well, I think when you're working extra special hours, which I call them, the odd hours, you end up putting yourself before a lot of more important things. And I think that's the downfall of what I did, is I was putting my work, my profession ahead of a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have at the time. So, it makes sense the marriage fell apart very early on, and when the girls were very young. And I remember they were kids of divorce before anyone else in their class, and they didn't understand it, and it was very difficult for them. Of course, unfortunately, the way society is, that a lot of their friends have since gone through that, and my girls, I think, have been a good shoulder to cry on for some of their friends, actually knowing that, if two parents can decide that they're not right being together, but they can raise their children the best they can and make sure their children get all the best things in life that they can, that says something. And I think that's the message is that you eventually do have to put your kids first, and the kids are the most important things in your life. And I think selfishly it took me a little while to figure that out, Nick.
Well, dude, you can speak to a whole lot of people here. This is, as a middle-aged husband and dad, this is the challenge. I got, let's just say at 44, let's say I got 15-ish years of that used to be the way. You got 15 years left of I would say that I'm entering my highest earning years. Let's say it that way. Right?
Yep.
So I'm my most value in life right now to society as a whole, business and everything else. So it's but at the same time, I'm also the most valuable to my family right now. Right? Every day I do get a little bit older. I lose a little bit of speed, even just long tossing baseball with my son. It's no longer me playing catch with him when he's stretching it out as far as he can go. Right. He carries a bucket full of baseballs and I catch it and drop it because I can't throw it that far anymore. So I'm torn. Every day I'm torn.
Well, the fact that you acknowledge it tells me that you're doing the right thing. When you acknowledge that, what's happening, so you're obviously paying attention to it. The funny thing is, you said that your age, 44, and you have about 15 years left of your prime earning years. Well, at the end of 15, you're my age.
Got it.
And what I was seeing is a lot of people my age are kind of they look like they're starting to put the balls away.
There's a lot of juice in the tank, ain't it?
Right. And the fact is that, when someone calls you a legend in the office, I equate legend with someone who's been dead for several years and they just remember them in the past. When people look at you and say, how many more years are you going to do this? You start saying, you know what? No, I'm not. This sounds like someone who's on their way out.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be 14 years for you. I want it to be through the finish line. And that's what kind of changed within me. I wanted to keep on going. I wanted to start over in many ways. I had 15 midlife crises. This is totally different than a midlife crisis. This is a restart. This is saying, no, I'm not going to accept aging. I'm not going to accept societal norms of becoming, settled down and, sitting on the armchair on the front porch. I'm going to pick up the baton and start running this race again. And for me, it was changing out of the career I had chosen at that point. For me, it was signing up for a triathlon, and it was to get myself going again, to feel younger, first of all, physically. And it was a whole bunch of other things that happened that I'm so glad that I did it. Life right now is so uncertain for me. It's never been this uncertain, but it's also never been so enjoyable. It's incredible.
How did you know that it was so? One of my things is you don't quit, you finish.
Right.
All right. God hides the gift in the end of something God hides the beginning or the gift in the end of something else.
So true.
All right. So if you don't finish and you quit, you don't get the gift. Okay. Like my baseball career, I was finished. Yeah. I didn't quit. I was finished. Yeah. And if I had wanted to stay longer, they might not have had me, but it was on my terms, but it triggered everything else that followed. I had a moment. Everybody has that moment where you're like, this is it, I can see it. Like, I don't know where the finish line is until you do. Yeah. When did you have was there one aha moment that
there
really
was?
Okay.
There was very much. I had woken up late for work. I was running behind. I got to the office about 10 minutes late. And as I was leaving the house that morning, Carrie, who never wakes up, rolled over in bed and she said, "Are you done?" And I looked at her and I said, "I'm done." And I went to work that day, and then the boss called me in. Nice guy, right? No, just said, I hate having meetings like this. And it came over me. And my first words were, "Let's not." I said, "I'll work through the end of my contract, and then I'm done." And I guess I said it in a rather convincing manner because that was the end of that meeting. And that turned out to be one of the better moments I've had in a long time. It almost felt like chains had come off.
Yeah, dude. I want to describe that feeling because I have had that there's two different times where I finished something and to do something else. And as scary as I made it, it wasn't at all. It was like, once you finally just go all in and commit on that decision, it's like, there's no doubt. It's like, I couldn't wait to have the conversation and be over.
Right. And when was the last time your blood was pumping like that? When all of a sudden you were like, wow, I'm starting over. And you don't get that opportunity too often in life. You kind of have to make that opportunity happen. I felt like I was waiting for it, right? I was sitting in this job. I hadn't really gotten a raise in 15 years. The tide was going up around me. So my children getting more expensive to raise. And I'm all of a sudden barely trying to make ends meet, even though I had a great salary. But again, 15 years and it happens. And then to make that decision and do that and say, you know what, all opportunities are out there once again. Let's do it. It was, man, even today when I talk about it, it just gets my heart pumping. And like I said, I don't know where we go from here, but I've loved everything that's happened so far. I'm using parts of my brain, Nick, that I haven't used in 3 decades.
Well, I mean, we're going to talk about the businessman and what you're doing in there. We're going to talk about the physical stuff and how you're all the things that you're bettering yourself physically and mentally that just were not even options in the past. But I want you to start thinking about something because I think this will be fun. And you didn't know I was going to go here. All right, so at some point in time, 30 years, the highlight reel from that would be incredible. The people. The late, the celebrities that are no longer with us, that you guys would have had conversations with, the bloopers. There's got to be a Jim Varney story in there from something when he, you know what I mean?
Shoot, I remember, when you meet Porter Wagner, right? And the legend of Porter Wagner, and he comes up to you and he introduces himself to you because he knows you already. There's no feeling like that, right? It's because I grew up adoring these people, but no, I have forgotten more stories than I could remember, but they're incredible moments, mixing up Hall & Oates on the red carpet of the CMAs. How stupid could I look there, right? Is there any worse blooper that you could possibly make on yourself?
Mustache,
Tanya
no mustache.
Tucker walking around and reaching up underneath my pants and probably hitting a spot she wasn't going for at the moment. And everyone around was like, oh.
Yep.
And she's a wonderful woman. And we laugh about it to this day. But when you do something like I have, you never forget what an opportunity is and how special it is, right? You have the front row access to everything.
Yeah.
The only difference between you and anyone else at that venue is that you have a camera and a microphone and a TV report to deliver later on. It was a privilege. And I hope anyone that's doing that these days does not let that go beyond them.
Hi, folks. I'm your man, Nick Hyder, and I just want to say a quick thank you for all of you, the millions of you tuning into the Hitstreak. If you have not already, subscribe to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Share your favorite episodes with your friends, your team, literally whoever needs a lift. We've built a worldwide audience of millions, and we're just getting started. Every episode, we're breaking down the playbook of top performers so that you can get to that next level too. We're literally getting the information from the people that have it to the people that need it by bringing on guests that everybody knows and some that not everybody knows yet. So again, thank you for being a part of this movement. Keep listening, keep sharing, and keep leveling up with the Hitstreak. What do you think about this? Right. So, and literally I'm asking, so when you have that moment, it's like lightning strikes, right? And you've literally been struck by lightning twice. I didn't know that until today.
Yes.
So
I have a different hit streak.
WTF.
Right.
How? I got to know, where were you at? Because we're not going there.
The funny thing is when I was crossing the finish line at the Panama City Beach 70.3, right as I crossed the finish line, lightning over my head in a loud bang. It was Carrie was sitting there like, oh no, not again. No. So these weren't direct hits, but I was the first one I tasted metal and my hair was up with smoke and I lost my hearing for some time. But I was in Maine. I was laying in bed. I had a pet raccoon, right? That metal cage was at the head of my bed. And out front was a big, tall, Maine pine tree. And we're right up against the water here, about 15 feet away from the water. Lightning hits the pine tree, comes down through the window, hits my bed where every bolt came out of the bed, out of the wood bed. The raccoon cage got mashed up against the side, and I got thrown and hit the wall on the other side of the room. It was a narrow room, but still, I hit the wall. And all I remember is I wake up, I'm in my tighty whities and I go to the top of the stairs and my mom's at the bottom of the stairs and she has an iron skillet in her hand. What happened? What happened? And I'm up at the top of the stairs with smoke coming out of my hair, speaking in tongues. Mm-hmm. And my mom started laughing. Oh my. You want to talk about a tough lady.
Yeah.
She started laughing. But yeah, there were people coming down for, the end of the beach road for a long time saying, where's Lightning Boy? And here I am. Mm-hmm. But the funny part of that story is there was a lobsterman who was getting ready to go out and fish for the day. And he was hard to understand because he had that thick Maine accent, right? But he was talking about how he saw the lightning hit the house and he tried to hit the floor of his boat, but didn't have time. And it burnt a hole through his boots. And he was very upset that his new rubber boots, fish boots, had been torn up. Mm-hmm. And we didn't think much of it, but we're walking on the beach like a couple weeks later and there's a boot. And we lift up the boot and through the sole of the boot is this perfect dime size hole.
Wow.
All the way through.
Wow.
And it was like, wow, Mr. Curtis was not messing around. That really, you just, and how funny, a lobsterman gets a hole in his boot and just throws it overboard. It's like, well, can't use that no more. Mm-hmm. So the second time I'm out in the
hold on. What happened to the raccoon?
Okay.
Did the raccoon?
Well, no one asked that. See, Nick, this is what makes you different. No one asked about Bandit. Bandit was just in this confined space in the squished down cage and just rocking back and forth. And Bandit was never the same. Bandit started biting. Bandit started acting weird. So Bandit probably got more of the jolt than I did. But we eventually had to let Bandit go. And Bandit went on to live a very long, happy life. Hopefully like our pet seagulls did too. Just moved on. Yeah, we had pet seagulls. So yeah.
Oh my God.
There was a breeding island just offshore where we used to go. And me and my buddy Tim, we went out there one time. We found a baby seagull and we took all the just opened up eggs and we started pouring the blood on the baby seagull and we brought it back to my mom and we were like, Mom, we found this. It fell off a cliff. We got to save it. And my mom's looking at me like, you are so full of it. And we ended up raising the seagull because once you touch him, you can't put him back. I regret doing that, but it was turned out to be a great pet that used to follow us around the beach, just walking behind us, and used to come in the living room and walk around with us.
That's awesome.
Yep,
that is awesome. So the second time I was in Denver, and I was in a chapter room of a fraternity I was in, and there was a thunderstorm, and sure enough, every time there's a thunderstorm, everyone's like, "Tell that story, tell that story." And I'm leaning up against this big boiler heater in this big room, and there's a group standing around me, and we're all just sitting there, and I'm about midway through the story, and lightning hits the tree outside the window, comes right down through the window of the chapter house, hits the boiler heater, sparks fly up, and I get sent on my stomach across the floor. Wow.
Right there. And and after that, everyone's like, stay away from him. But even then, I when a thunderstorm would happen, I would literally get jittery and start like, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I've gotten better, but yeah.
Wow. Dude, I don't know. That's just fascinating.
Carrie says I'm very grounding. That's why I get hit by lightning. So, okay, I'll take that.
Absolutely. Well, there's good in everything, I guess.
Right. Well, I'm still here.
That's
Some
right.
people that get hit by lightning aren't still here. So, yeah.
That's right. So as you go through the years, the funny thing about history is it's always viewed with a 20/20 lens.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So, let me ask you this. So knowing what you got daughters 15 and 18, you look back at the sacrifices that the entire family made. There's a cost to everything. Right. The cost to your family. Yep. When you look back 30 years later, would you do things different?
Yeah, I would force myself through tiredness and through long hours at work to spend more time with my girls and to be there for them more often. With that, they're very fortunate; they have a great mom. So I'm still. I think that's why sometimes, Nick, I'm just amazed at what terrific people they turned out to. Like, my youngest, Audrey, almost knows what I'm thinking ahead of time, so she can come in, she can read me, and she's like, "Tell me what's wrong," Yeah. And it's like they're special people that way. And what I hope I did was I introduced them to a lot of things that I think that they needed to see in this world. And I'm proud of that. I took them to, veterans ceremonies. I taught them stuff that, not everyone has what we have. And we would go to, help folks out. And I think they took a lot away from that, and they realized that they're really living a blessed and fortunate life, and they're just wonderful kids.
Well, and it's a tough thing because as a let's just say TV and movie, let's just say that the pay is a little different.
Yeah.
So, but the sacrifice is the same,
right?
So, like I don't know. Jason Aldean's kids, they're able to do things in a little bit different manner, just because maybe there's the comma's in a different spot in the bank, or there's extra zeros and whatnot. You know what I mean? But the sacrifices are about the same. It's entertainment.
Yeah, he's on the road a lot, but he's figured it out, right? Yeah. And it goes back to what you said before. It's making that conscious decision to be there for your family, even though you realize that you might be taking away from something else you want to get done in your life at that moment. It's the acknowledgement of that I think is so important. And I'll tell you what, if you have baby girls, open their door for them every time they get in a car. Every time they go through a door, you make sure that you're the gentleman that you want them to eventually meet. And that's been very important for me too, because I think they get it.
So as one of the things I'm learning, when my wife and I are having these conversations, I like every once in a while we'll have fun where she'll be like, I'm tired. I'm like, look, we are not old. We are not playing the old card. All right. So, but at the same time, I'm like, a lot of the decisions that we're making now at 44 is we could have made it 34, but you realize at 44, the time that has passed. Yeah. And when you're in your 20s, you take all that for granted. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I've wasted at least a decade.
Of course.
Like, just totally wasted it.
Yes. I feel the exact same way. I appreciate every moment I had in the TV career. But I do wish that I had reset a little bit earlier.
Yes, that was where I was going with it, right?
It was, if I could do that in my 40s as opposed to my 50s, my late 50s, I would 100% go back to that guy and say, now, pull the plug, now, go. I'm whispering.
Dramatics.
It's kind of odd. It's very odd. No, so, but look, I spent some time beating myself up about that, but I can't anymore. I can't do that. I eventually made the change. I have to understand that everything happens for a reason in your life. And my time was later than others. I did everything later in life. I got married later in life. I had kids later in life. I left my career to start a new career later in life. Got to accept it. Right? And I still feel like I have a lot of growing to do, and that when you start having conversations with friends saying, man, I wake up and I feel like I'm injured just from sleeping, and there's this programming that happens in society that, that when you get to be in your 50s, 55, 50, it's time to slow down.
Yeah.
Time to back off the gas. Time to protect those injuries. Time to, maybe put on a few pounds and just buy bigger clothes.
Let go. Just let it all go.
Let it go. You put in your time. And it's a norm. It's kind of programmed into us.
I agree.
And I want to change that. I want people to realize that the best years of your life are when your kids are adults and you actually have the means to do some things instead of just traveling and, going on tourist boats and stuff like that. You can actually go out and do adventures. You can, at 59 years old, you can bike 56 miles and run 13.1 miles. You can do it. I did it. I did not think I could do it because I'd given up running a long time ago because my knees were problematic. And the fact is
I was going to ask you about that because
I came up with 1,001 excuses why I could no longer run. I had plantar fasciitis. My knees hurt. My right hip would hurt. I couldn't stand up for a very long time. And I could feel my body in a state of deterioration. And I was accepting it. So I would go to the gym and I'd lift weights to make myself feel better. And the weights are great. I love it. But actually now getting back into some longer distance running and definitely long distance riding, and I'm virtually pain-free. And it's because I've addressed the root causes of the pain.
Yep.
Right? It's carrying a little bit too much weight. It's not stretching properly. It's some of the supplements that I'm taking that kind of help assist with your joint movement and stuff.
Yeah.
It all kind of comes together, and everyone's different, Nick. There's no prescribed course on how to do what I'm doing, but the fact is you have to make a decision just to get on the course. To get back in.
Yeah.
And I see it with, I meet people that are 10 years younger than me that look 10 years older than me.
Fact,
right.
They probably look 20 years older, Neil.
Well, and the fact is first of all, some of it's genetics. I'm very lucky about that, but also I'm now putting in the work.
Whether it's intentional.
Everything's intentional now. And there was a time there where, someone would say, oh, you're coloring your hair, or you're doing this, or, you got your teeth whitened. And I'd be like, no, because I hadn't. Well, now the answer is yes.
That's right.
I'm taking everything in the arsenal and I'm using it right now. Right. And, I have a great doctor who kind of helps me walk through some of these different things that I'm doing. I don't do anything recklessly or irresponsibly, but I do it all with caution, and I do it all with purpose. Yeah. And if it's not working, I stop. Move on.
Somebody told me one time, he literally looked me right in the face. He said, Nick, you know what's important that you push your limits? I said, no, why? He goes, because you're the one that set them.
Right.
And I was like, dang.
It's so true. Yeah. And we put limits on ourselves in just virtually everything we do in life. And the days used to seem long, and now the days don't seem long enough.
That's right.
Because when you're living with purpose and you're going out and accomplishing things each and every day, it's 8:00 at night. What happened to the day? But I started doing this thing right when I left work, and I talked to you a little bit about it. I'm still doing it. I wake up, I open up my computer, and I write first thoughts. First thing in my mind.
Such a healthy thing to do, yeah.
Then I write the 10 things that I am going to do today. And they can be anything. Put the dishes away, mow the lawn, whatever. And they can be some more intense things. And then I write a paragraph again on where I am after writing those 10 things down, I usually come up with some really cool stuff, right? I mean, I'm saving them. I'm gonna put them together someday because it's enabled me to really focus on the day and really make the most out of my time. Where before it's kind of like, I wake up at 1:30, I'll be back here at 11 o'clock, and I don't know, I'll go for a run or golf or something like that. And I don't have time for golf anymore. It's like,
that's right.
It's not a bad thing.
No. Well, it's like, where I'm going with this is,
where are you going with this?
Well, the Ironman. Okay. Yeah. So, first of all, you said something before about, there's a cost to pretty much everything. I mean, everybody's got a price to pay, but yet everybody's price is just different. Absolutely. Right.
Yep.
But the Ironman it's such a pivotal thing. And I think, a year from now, you're going to look back, it's what you're doing, literally like reinventing yourself, reintroducing yourself, professionally, personally, everything. You're literally like saying, hey, son, you know what I mean? Like when it comes up, you're not telling it goodbye on your way home in the morning. Like it's crazy. But like the Ironman is important because you're overcoming, literally like everything in life is based on beliefs, based on habits, based on previous experiences and everything else. And even for me, working out is, I want to look a certain way. I want my clothes to fit in a certain way, but like, I need to go out there and kick the weight room's ass.
Yeah.
So that I can go out and kick the ass it's the momentum. Yeah. And like, so you doing the Ironman was huge in my opinion in what you're doing, because you have to have that momentum to get where you're going next and what you're doing next.
So I'm different because I'm older than you. When I look in the mirror right now and I look at myself after doing all the training, the months and months of training, I'm looking at someone who's 10 to 15 years younger. Mm-hmm. That changes my whole outlook on the day, on everything. If I showed you the before picture right when I left TV news, suits can cover up a lot of ugliness. Mm-hmm. And then I showed you what I look like now. It's literally like looking at myself 20 years ago, what's changed. But what I found interesting about the Ironman is that you can prepare as much as possible. You can ride those rides, those down the Natchez Trace, and you can do those hills. You can run those runs, go to the Y at 5 o'clock in the morning, swim 3,000 yards. You can do everything possible to prep. And when you get to race day, everything's changed. Mother Nature's going to throw more 40-mile-per-hour winds at you. You start with, I've never ridden in rain before. I'm down riding in Panama City Beach, down in my aero position, getting pelted by heavy rain and wind. Later in the ride, bright sunshine. And I reach back for my water bottle with just all my supplements and everything mixed in already. Nothing's there. My water bottle's popped out on a bump. And then you're like, now I am faced with a whole different circumstance. And you finally get to the mile marker 45. And you're like, I can do 11 miles. And you turn the corner and the 40-mile-per-hour winds are coming right at you. The sand off the beach feels like pins going to your skin. And then you're getting gusts of 50 miles per hour where if you're not going fast enough, you will go right over on your side. I've passed a guy with a collapsed lung. I passed another guy getting loaded into an ambulance. I passed a woman had walked out onto the course in front of a bike. I saw it happen right in front of my eyes. And all this stuff is going through your mind and you're trying to get to that finish line. What I didn't count on is I burnt out my hamstrings on the ride because I was trying so hard just to get through that final 11 miles. When I got off my bike in the transition area, I fell to the ground. I couldn't get up for 5 minutes. My coach and two of my friends were sitting there going, 10 minutes in transition, that's bad. Yeah. I was like, actually, if you were there with me, you'd say you overcame probably one of the hardest things you've ever done in your life to finish that race. And it was. But when you think about that period of time, it's so much like life encapsulated. It doesn't matter how much you prepare, Nick. It doesn't matter how much you're ready to go. It doesn't matter how much of a game plan you have established. You're going to get thrown a curveball that you never expected. And the whole thing about it is, how am I going to get through? And how am I going to do it successfully?
There's, again, the reason that athletes, the best in the world, they all practice a certain way.
Right.
So that way, if you practice like it's game 7 in the World Series, when it is game 7, it's just another game.
Right.
And again, leveraging you overcoming those things, like when you're faced with overcoming the next thing in your professional life or even personal life, you're already like you've done that. You're conditioned to take it, and not just take it, but actually like win doing it. You know what I mean? Because of that, like it's why it's so important.
I think the second thing to overcoming those obstacles that happened during the race was the lessons I learned from the race, and the lessons I learned from the race that I can apply to my training now to make my training more like Game 7. Because before I was in La La Land, I've never done this before, right? I'd go out for the ride, and you'd have these OTB runs. OTB means off the bike and start running. Well, OTB to me meant like go out and have lunch and take a shower and then put on your running stuff and go. You can't do that. You have to train yourself so that it's a game condition, so that when you get off that bike, you put your running shoes on immediately in your bike shorts and you start running. I learned stuff like this. I learned I need better water bottles.
Dude, it was cold when you were preparing for this too, by the way, here in Nashville.
Freezing cold. I had so many times on a treadmill and a stationary bike. I'm sick and tired of it. Tired of it. But the amazing thing is that when you're there's 2,000 other people that did the exact same thing you did. And some of the people that passed me on the course, Nick, I would not mistake them for triathletes if I met them in public, but they are. Some of the people that I passed, I'm like, well, he's in 10 times better shape than me. But it's this cultish kind of feeling of these people that are so dedicated to accomplishing this race. I can't. In my 60th year, I'm going to do a full triathlon.
Let's go.
And that's almost 3 miles swimming. That's the 140 miles riding and a full marathon afterwards. I can't believe I'm saying that right now after doing what I just did.
Yeah.
But if that carrot, it's not out there in front of you, you're not chasing anything.
I've been interested in triathlons myself to watch.
Well, that I would recommend.
I love triathlons. I can always watch them.
You know what? You'd do good at this. You'd love it. I think I'd be right up your alley. I was telling Rhiannon that, you got to get him on a bike. We got to get him doing this. We got to get Nick doing this because he'd love it. You have that personality.
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, you're interviewing me. You're a glutton for punishment, brother.
Are you ready to take your brand digital? At HitLab Creative, we don't just make content. We build your digital foundation from the ground up. So whether you're launching a podcast, creating scroll-stopping social media content, or building a website that actually converts, we connect all the dots. Podcast production, CRM systems, content strategy, data analytics, branding, it's all under one roof. Because in today's world, content without strategy, it's just noise. And you're here to make an impact. So if you're ready to launch smarter, grow faster, and create with a purpose, it's time to team up with the HitLab. Visit hitlabstudio.com/studio-time and let's build something that lasts. Because the HitLab is where digital strategy meets data-driven content creation. Again, it's such a huge thing because as you're transitioning into this, like one of the things I'm most fascinated with is, you mentioned that you used to run a lot and you kind of stopped. Well, folks, I can promise you he ran because we saw him all over town, especially over in by Lipscomb University and Belmont and all that stuff.
That's right.
Like, but you were somebody that was easily recognized when you were spotted.
Right.
Okay. So that's called a celebrity. When you recognize somebody that's on screens,
right,
that's called a celebrity.
Right. That's funny.
Now, one of the hardest things to do, I think, is understand the value of what it means to be known or a celebrity.
Right.
So, because when you left after 30 years, it's almost like, how did I not know what value I bring so that I can immediately just go right to that next thing? How hard, how much soul searching, how much talk to me about the transition a little bit. I'm so fascinated with this.
It's funny. I think several months ago, I would have said to you, no, I don't miss it one single bit. No, it's not really a big deal. I never really put that much stock in being known and recognized and stuff like that. And I think that's a lie. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a certain amount of ego in it. And it's, when someone recognizes you for something that you do, it kind of boosts you up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And when you disappear from that, you have to acknowledge that there's been some loss in your life, whether it's right or wrong. There's been something that's removed from just your daily functioning around town. Mm-hmm. And now getting recognized it's like, give me a hug.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't understand what that means for me. But no, there was a transition. I said that the first 3 months, I thought I was over the transition. I was moving on. And now here I am 6 months later telling you, no, it's still happening. Mm-hmm. There's still things in my life that I'm tidying up, that I'm kind of moving away from or moving toward, that I leave this little tiny piece of hair on my face that my mom hates, my 90-year-old mom hates, but I leave it there. So every time I look in the mirror, I realize that I'm a different person and I've gone a different direction. Because if you don't keep reminding yourself that you made that change, you consciously made the change, then you easily fall back into old patterns. And that's wrong. And the old patterns that I don't want to fall back into are very important, that I kind of stay away from.
Old habits, all habits are hard to break,
right,
especially the bad ones.
Right.
And that was a revelation that I had in my own life after I was done playing baseball. A couple of years had gone by, and it just dawned on me when I looked in the mirror. I couldn't figure out why everybody was just wanting to talk to me about baseball. Right. That nobody was intrigued or interested in anything else I was thinking about doing or whatever else. Right. And I looked in the mirror and I thought, well, I'm wearing the same sweatpants I used to wear every day as a baseball player. So why would I expect anybody else to treat me different if I didn't give them a fighting chance? You know what I mean? Like that's the gift wrapping I present every day.
It's amazing.
And it truly was. So like I changed everything. If you look at pictures from before that transition, like all the way down, I had the same haircut like my whole life. It was short hair. I grew it out long, right? So I'd never had facial hair. We did facial hair. Like I changed everything.
I think that's important. I mean, I think it's, you have to have these visual cues to push yourself forward to keep doing that. I look at pictures of you in the past. I can tell almost exactly what stage of your life you're at just from those pictures. You know, the pictures in your office, the athlete, the businessman who put on a couple pounds there, feeling pretty comfortable, going to all the conferences around the country and the world and stuff like that. And and now the one I think that you feel most comfortable in, and the one that you like to wake up to every day. And I think that is so important. But you know, there is that you still see the baseball player when you look in the mirror. I still see the broadcaster when I look in the mirror. To this day, if something funny happens to me during the day, I think, man, I'm going to talk about that tomorrow morning on TV. And then I'm like, I'm not on TV anymore. There's no way to talk about it. But it's funny. It's just, you're still the same, but everything around you has changed.
Well, that's a great segue into kind of like what you're doing now and what you're getting into.
Yeah.
So there's two things that you're doing now. So there's the... You are the CFO of KBEAUTÉ.
I got a promotion recently. Yeah, I'm now the CFO.
We're giggling about it. This is a big deal.
It is a big deal. Actually.
This is a big deal because like she is. I don't know anybody that is more educated and better at what she does than, and we're talking about talking about Carrie Lee, right? And literally like she's been face sculpting me. She's actually with Brad back there right now while we're filming this, right? Brad Lee's back there and she's doing some consult with him. She's phenomenal.
He doesn't know what he's in for, does he?
No,
he has no idea. Well, when you're around someone who's so at the top of their game like she is, and when I listen to her talk to people about their facial structure, what's happening below the skin, like, you know, if she's working on your eye, but she'll actually be putting injections toward the top of your head, and she can explain why. I need to numb this up so that this pulls harder, this muscle works better. It's different with her. And when you have the owners of some of the products that fly in from California to have her do the treatment because she's so good at applying the products and is so knowledgeable, it tells you you're in rare air. So she had worked for great plastic surgeons over the years, 20 years, and she wanted to do it by herself where she didn't have guardrails.
On her terms.
On her terms. She is not only about the aesthetic, she's about the wellness. And she's combining the two. And she's so into the Korean skincare because she found out what she does and has been doing naturally over the past 20 years is what Korea has been doing. So she literally was doing stuff that is happening in where aesthetic treatments really are born, right? Korea is the ground zero for that, for milk skin. So it's time for her to start her own business, Dick, and she got a few months into it, and starting an aesthetic business is impossible. And here's a woman who has a creative being in her that is unstoppable. But when you put her into the business mode of trying to set up this business, trying to go through the regulatory, trying to get all the medical director set up, trying to get all the insurance taken care of, the property taken care of, the malpractice taken care of, the occupancy permit, it's a lot. And she broke down one day and said, "Can you do this for me?" And I was happy to do that. And I didn't expect it. These things keep happening to me that I'm not really sure why they're happening when they initially start happening, but then I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now I see the journey.
That's right.
But I was an economics major. I was a business administration major, and I haven't used those muscles in decades. And all of a sudden here I am trying to put together business plans, and I'm trying to put together stuff for her and work with reps and all the different agencies. And I'm like, there's some sort of awakening happening in me. Like you can do this. And every time you go one step forward is to hold 3 steps back and regroup. And so now I feel like you're close to the finish line. And what she's doing is going to change the industry. And I know a lot of people say stuff like that, Nick, but I can tell you what she's already been doing has changed the industry. And what she's going to do with KBEAUTÉ is going to turn it upside down.
No doubt. No doubt. And again, the timing, it's amazing. If you hadn't finished your career, these doors wouldn't be opening.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's awesome. So you got that going on. So you do get to actually flex some muscles that have just been lying dormant within you for decades. Right. Which is fantastic. And then you've got, let's talk about where,
but it's this world that
yeah.
draws me in like a fly to light, right? This is what you're doing right now. I'm fascinated by. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, you guys have you've got a little, let's just call it a spinoff. Would that be a little bit better word?
It was something that, so Nikki found herself out of work as well. And after working together for so long, we had started just before the whole world shut down. We'd started this podcast. We got 2 episodes in. I'd bought all the equipment. I had set up a little studio, and then it was over. Right, everything shut down. And so after we were both found ourselves with some free time, we said, let's get Not the News going again. And so we did a couple with just us, and we did one with Chris Kirkpatrick. And, it's you don't realize, first of all, how hard podcasting is until you get behind a microphone. More respect to you and people that do this on a daily basis, because having a long form conversation versus the quick news in and out, stuff like that, 2 totally different beasts.
Yep.
You have to learn a whole new skill. So yeah, we're doing that right now. But Nikki has other podcasts that she's doing. Same here. And we I think you and I have shared conversations off air before about where I would like to see this going.
Yeah.
But I think that this is kind of where the whole industry, I think, is what people want in their lives, right?
Yeah.
When I can go to the gym and I can listen to your podcast and I listen to Brad's podcast, and when I can do that while I'm working out, so I'm bettering myself by physically, but I'm also at the same time thinking and working my brain and reprogramming myself a little bit. It's I can't tell you the last time I watched TV news.
Right.
It's just it's one of those things that was taken out of my life, and I don't miss it. And I hate when I sound like a disgruntled old broadcaster. I hate that. I appreciate those folks so much, and I know there's such an audience for that stuff, but I'm just not part of it anymore. But I learned, I would wake up at 1:30 and I would read an hour of news. Then I would go to work. I'd read through the scripts, edit the scripts. And then I would do 3 hours of news. Then I would get off the air and I'd go right back to the websites and read more news. And then I would go home and I'd read news till the night. So I literally read everything and watched everything and was so immersed in it that all of a sudden now I find myself with a better understanding of what actually people want, because now I'm no longer in tune. When someone asks me about something that's happening in the world, I'm like, I'll have to look that up.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Why'd the market shoot up today? I don't know. I'll have to look it up. I have a much better appreciation for how people are consuming news. And I can tell you one thing. The phone's killing TV news, right? Phone is a TV in your pocket. And I don't think my girls have watched one single newscast in their entire life, even though the dad was in the business. It's all on that little screen in your hand. It's all on the screen that people are most likely listening to this or watching it on. That's where it's all going. And I think that's something the industry is trying to address, but they keep doing the the spiral. It's the the stuff if you do something wrong, you do it over and over again, and you're crazy. What the saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know the saying. But
it's doing the same thing over and over again with wanting different results is the definition of insanity.
Exactly, and that's where the business is right now. It's unfortunate, but it's just a reality. And when I saw this coming several years ago, and at the end of every script, we would say, for more information, go to our website, and we'd give the website address, and you'd have to do it in the same way, and the same graphic would come up. And I said, we are literally programming our consumers to not watch us anymore, because after every script, we tell them, go somewhere else.
That's right.
And when that was happening, I realized this is not going to end well.
Oh, yeah.
This is not going to end well, which is why you see average ages going up of viewers, and you watch numbers go down, and the fragmentation of the entire audience is really, the ratings that we were getting when I left versus the ratings just 10 years ago are totally different. You're looking at fractions of what used to be there. So
I've always wondered, even like the Tonight Show and that literally like the network's biggest platforms that they stream across all markets and all syndicates and everything else. It's like, how are they still doing the production the same, knowing
they're not?
Yeah, it's crazy to me that the money's not there like it used to be.
No, I was looking at the revenue for the night shows, and it was like 427 million 10 years ago, 227 million 5 years ago, and it's gone down since then. No, you can't sustain that, and something's got to give. And what gave in local news is that the salaries have all gone down, the talent has all gotten less experienced. I
agree with that. Yeah.
Right? And love them all, but when for a laugh line, I always say, when I was wearing ties that were older than my coworkers, I knew it was time, right? And so it's just you can see it if you go to 10,000 feet and look down at what's happening at local news. It's the same thing that happened to other media forms as we grew up, right? Newspapers gave way to radio gave way to TV. TV is now giving way to streaming, and streaming is podcasting. And so you see it happening. And what happens next after, when you become an old dinosaur in the podcast business, and I'm a Hitstreak with Nick, and we're going to be right back. The kids might be watching holograms in front of them on another format, like totally different. And you have to understand that things change, things evolve, and the world will never stay still. And the technology, when you look at what AI is doing and how fast that is spreading and what it's doing to the fabric of our lives, it's kind of crazy. It's not only accelerating the change, it's accelerating it right now at a scary pace. So you may, in 5 years, I may go online and say, give me a podcast that addresses the fact that I'm feeling sad in the mornings, good in the midday, but sad again in the afternoon. I want a motivational podcast. And AI will make a podcast and voice a podcast and even give you a figure to watch. That's what's happening right now. It's frightening.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
Right. Sure is fun when you can put a paragraph into Chat GPT and say, clean this up for me. And It comes out beautifully.
Oh, yeah.
That's fun. But some of the other stuff that's happening and where we're going with this is we're not as important as we used to be because of what we just created.
Facts. That's man. You said that as good as you could say it.
Hey, the TV anchors, they were talking about replacing them with animations years ago, right?
What?
There was talk about how someday it's just going to be a talking head cartoon like Max Headroom, right? Back in the day.
Yep.
Someday that's going to replace the television news anchor, and what they'll be able to do is customize this person so that he appeals to the most, or she appeals to the most people possible just through looks and what people are searching online, and then make them say the words, and then you don't have to worry about an anchor who doesn't read the scripts like me, right? You'll have every script read just perfectly the way they want it.
Folks, it's cool. When you're doing these podcasts, we love the rawness of them, right? There's very little, we don't really cut anything out of these things.
No.
Everything you get, and literally so where we're at today, he's such a pro. There's massive construction going on all around us, and it's not coming through the phones, which is great because we can. It's so the folks listening with us can't hear it.
I thought it was my heart. No, that's actually a jackhammer out.
It's unbelievable. I can hear it in the room, but but in the mix, we're great, right? Yeah. It's not getting it, but folks, he's such a pro. Like it's pounding. It's been going on the entire time, and it's I've never seen Dale pick up and throw a bulldozer before, but he just might by the time we're done, because I've seen him pacing back and forth up there.
Yeah. He's the warden.
Oh yeah,
he's in control of this.
So Neil's such a pro, because like literally he's having to control his thoughts here, and he's telling these stories all with a jackhammer going literally right outside from where they're expanding the road. Growing
we used
pains.
to have the trash pickup every morning during the morning news, so I was always ready for that bang.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, like you hear outside, it was crazy. People would, we're in the midst of a show and people are coming into the work for the first time of the day, and people are loud sometimes in the morning, stuff like that. So we're constantly dealing with distractions going on in the background. When I used to work with an open newsroom behind us, you never knew what was going to happen. It was chaos at times. If there was a breaking news story, a real breaking news story, unlike now, you'd sense people behind you moving fast, talking fast, but you didn't know what was coming at you. So you were sitting there like, when's it going to hit? So you kind of learn to roll with the punches in that deal.
Well, Neil, after 30 years in the news, on TV, you have a very unique skill set that very few people have. So one of the things that I've loved about talking with you since you left the old chapter, since you closed the old chapters in life, is you were basically saying like, look, man, what the news could and should be is what I'm interested in bringing to people. Right. What does that mean? What is the news turned into? And I know what it's turned into. It's turned into bad news only, right? But like, where's the entertaining? Is there an entertainment factor that's missing? Like, why did they gravitate to only bad stuff?
It's people don't slow down when there isn't a car accident. People slow down for the car accident. So it's a lot of, rubbernecking and stuff like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to find a formula, and if it seems to move the needles, you're going to kind of go hard on that. So if you don't have a shooting in Nashville, let's pull a shooting from Knoxville. Let's pull a shooting from Memphis, where at least we can give 20 seconds of that kind of adrenaline jump stuff. We often lose sight that there are people involved in this, and there are real human lives that are affected by these different little events there. I think that's something that's missing right now, is the lack of understanding of how what we say impacts people not only involved in a story, but also watching the story. But, our job as journalists used to be to inform and educate, right? And it used to be, try to not be part of it, just explain what's going on. Mm-hmm. If there's more than one opinion, try to get those opinions. And now I feel like that the whole media industry has become so fragmented, Nick, that people are now interjecting opinions into stories, and people are now slanting things. Before it used to be unheard of to not have two voices on a story of at least different opinions. Mm-hmm. Now, if you watch, you'll see a lot of stories that are just hung on one person. Mm-hmm. Well, one person has one opinion, right? So you're not even getting two. And I feel like there's an ability to manipulate when you boiled it down like that people I think have become very standoffish about. Mm-hmm. And I think can you trust what you're watching anymore is always in the back of people's heads when they're watching a newscast. And I think rightfully so, right? Mm-hmm. Because I can immediately go online and another opinion pops up on the exact same matter, and I can go to two different national news sources. I can pull the same exact story, and they are 100% different. And what you strive for is to, I always say, make yourself uncomfortable every single day, because that means you're giving an opinion that isn't yours. Mm-hmm. And I think that we lack that now, because and I think it's because a lot has been placed on a journalist now to go out. When you do a story, you not only have to do that story, you probably have to pick up a couple other quick videos of other stories happening around town. You have to do a social media post. You have to do you have to go through a whole different circumstance versus when I first got into the business, and you'd be assigned in the morning a photographer. You and the photojournalist would go out and cover a single story. You'd have time to sit and think about it and bounce it back and forth between each other, and then write a story that you felt like was balanced. And I just don't think there's that time anymore.
Yeah, I totally get that.
I just, for me, I would, if I ever got back in the news realm again, I would just want to have different voices. Voices that make me uncomfortable. I used to say, I got in this business to make everyone upset.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't get in this business to make one side happy and one side upset. I got in the business to make everyone upset. And I'd like to see that happen again. And I think there are seeds starting to sprout of just that. I feel like it. And I want to be part of that. And I think the next step for podcasting is live podcasting, right?
Facts.
Yeah.
I agree with that. 100%.
Do you really? Okay.
Oh yeah.
That's where I see it. I just see that, like, I love this format. And again, you don't edit. It pretty much just goes on the way we are talking right now. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, there's something about live, and it's where I thrived, is being on my toes and speaking as something was happening. That was where my bread and butter. And so this is the whole thing with podcasting. Now I'm kind of all over the place when I'm sitting in a studio with someone.
Are you ready to transform your business and unlock new revenue streams? At Processing First, we empower our partners with cutting-edge payment solutions and unparalleled support. We're more than just a one-size-fits-all payment processor. We're relationship-driven. By leveraging our extensive network of banking partners, we match you with the ideal bank to ensure that you receive the most competitive rates and deliver an exceptional experience for both you and your customers. Join a network that values transparency, efficiency, and growth. With our state-of-the-art POS systems and competitive processing rates, you can offer your clients the best in payment technology while boosting your own profitability. Why choose Processing First? Innovative solutions. Stay ahead with our advanced payment processing tools. Dedicated support. Our team is here to assist you every step of the way. Lucrative opportunities. Enhance your income by providing top-tier services to your clients. Don't settle for less. Partner with Processing First and take your business to the next level. Visit processingfirst.com to learn more and join our growing community of successful partners. And it's such a very intuitive thing that you just said, because here's why the live is the next destination for the podcaster, okay?
Yeah, tell me.
So in the beginning, the reason, like, we shoot 4 to 6 weeks in advance, most of our episodes, right? Unless it's a special promo or something like that. But typically, we shoot an episode, it's going to drop in 4 to 6 weeks. So the reason that we did that is because, like, basically I was making sure that we didn't miss a Tuesday.
Sure.
Right? We are what you want to do on Tuesdays.
Stack them up, right? Yeah.
Stack them up to make sure that it was just like how do they film The Price is Right or Jeopardy and those things. They'll film all these episodes in like 2 weeks, right? For the whole entire year. Yep. So I was like, all right, there's something there. But the reason that live is the next place is because this is how, let's just say, the real podcasters separate themselves from everybody that's up and coming, is because there's a dedicated, there's personnel, there's skills, and there's time that is required to do it live consistently. Right. Consistently is the reason why the consistency factor is why I don't do mine live right now. Right. Because it's not technically possible with the other responsibilities that we have. However, it's everything that we're working on with this show right here is to go in that direction or launch a second show that is live in another format. So, like, I totally agree with you, and that's why. And again, when you have the ability to go at it, it relieves a lot of pressure, right? It relieves a lot of pressure when you can say, we can fix that. Right. But when it's live, you got to be on. You got to be on time. Yeah. And when I'm saying on time, I'm not saying you show up on time. Like, your brain has to work on time. You know what I mean?
The first thing is consistency, and you got that, and you have it for the right reasons. I'm gonna bank some episodes so that way, if we go through a dry spell here and can't connect with our guests the proper way, I'm still going to be on every Tuesday.
Get sick, who knows? And
I would watch if you all of a sudden said, okay, every third week I'm going to do a live one because I got those two banked. So now we're going to start doing one. We're going to slip one in here and there because I don't think people understand, like, everything you say is interesting to me. It's why I'm not hearing the pounding outside. It's because I'm listening to what you're saying there. And I think that when you add in the live element and the fact that who knows what's coming out next. Yeah. I mean, I think that's exciting to me. And absolutely. I think that's the direction that you're going. And I think it's the direction that I'm going.
Well, and from an entertainment factor, it's literally like off the charts of an improvement.
Right.
When you can,
like I'd say, my girlfriend is staring at me through the door. Come on in here.
That's right. And if we were live, we could do that.
Live, you do
absolutely.
That, right? So,
and because if we do it today, it's like, well, then you got to get her mic'd up. But if it's live and all that's happening in real time, it's just I don't know. It's like behind the curtain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So live is definitely where it's at. And the fact that you did 30 years of live TV makes you extremely poised to do something that, like, for me, when I start going live, let's just say, because I haven't done it before, maybe Nick won't be great at it in the beginning. Maybe there's going to be a learning curve there. Possibly. I'll find out.
Well, if I looked at a broadcast from 30 years ago, I would be horrified. I'd be like, how did they let that guy on TV? Like, he first of all, he looks like a punk. Okay, he's got a double-breasted suit on right there. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's tracking these storms and he's going the wrong direction. It's like, get him off. Get the hook. I was on CNN for 17 hours once during the April 16th tornadoes, and my mom was like, I could hear the change rattling in your pocket. There's it was crazy when you look back. So it's funny when you said that to me when I first met you a long time ago. When I shook your hand, I was like, "We're doing something." I could tell you can just tell that, right? But I was like, yeah, but that's what someone's going to be saying to you down the road too, because you like when you get into a format early on and you're an early adapter of technology and you're an early adapter of formatting like that, you become the standard bearer, right?
Yeah.
You become people are watching the Hitstreak and saying, I'm going to set my studio up like Nick. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to interview people like Nick. So that's where you are. You're in the space.
Yep. Well, and check this out. Like literally from a branding standpoint, it'd be so easy because if you're watching with us, behind me is a graphic. It's been on every episode, the Hitstreak with Nick Hyder.
Oh,
it's cool. If you just take in all capital letters that looks like a neon sign with a square around it, and it's red, and it says live, and you just stamp it right on there, that's a second show.
That's a second show.
Right? And it's special. Now, and it may be, this is every Tuesday, and maybe the live stuff is random, and we promote it. Maybe it's like pop-up parties or pop-up events, or maybe pre-recorded episodes are on Tuesday, and every Friday we do a live.
But how great is it the fact that you can sit here and just spitball ideas like that and actually make them happen? That's the flexibility in this format that TV doesn't offer.
So like, I'm not worried about, like, we have sponsors, we have partners, and they're here because they want that innovation. They want what's coming next. They're not tied to that old.
Right.
They want, like, bring the new out with the old, bring the new, type thing.
Well, and they also want a host who has a relationship with their viewers that's different. They want their product associated with a host because of that host's association with the viewers. And that's part of the magic of this too.
The podcast host is not interchangeable. That's for dang sure.
No. And it's like, I'm going to buy Nick because he's got, 1 million views on his most recent podcast. But the fact is, I'm buying Nick because I like Nick.
Yeah.
I want Nick saying my product name out of his mouth. I want people to hear Nick talk about my company. That's what they're buying into. And that to me is pretty special as well, right? Because, you can choose what products you endorse. You can choose what products you partner with.
Yep.
And that gives you a certain amount of say in the direction of your show and the quality of your show and the standards that you set. So I know that if I see an advertisement or a partner of yours pop up on your show, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to give that a second thought because there's a connection there with Nick, and I have a connection with Nick. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And like, so with the rest of the time that we kind of have, I want to really get into two specific things. I really want to get into, like, again, you dream just like everybody else, right? And now you've got the resources, the relationships, and the time, right, to actually chase those dreams and pursue those dreams. Right. I know that you've got an exquisite message to not just men, but definitely men at midlife. And that's kind of how I want to bring everything to a close, right? So, but first I really want to talk about, like, tell me about what you dream about, what you want to do. We've had tons of conversations I just had this thought while we were recording today, and I wrote it down just because one of the big things in podcasting right now is, like, the old shows from the 80s and the 90s, the actors come together and they basically just relive the episode. They talk about it. Yeah.
I love that.
You got 29 years of that.
I got 29 years of that. I would, my dream is to first of all pull back the curtain on what I did for 30 years. Let people kind of get a little bit more inside. My dream is to give voices to people that don't have that voice. We walk around this world and just about everybody has a story. They have a voice. They have a reason they developed into who they are. And I love just going around and talking to people and figuring that stuff out. And you find out the coolest things that people have been through. And that's my dream would be to develop a product that does just that. I will never get morning radio and morning TV out of my blood. There is an adrenaline factor there that will never go away. If I ended up doing something live in the mornings again, I can tell you my heart would be 100% behind it. I would never wake up at 1:30 again in the morning. I would do it a little bit later on, probably 6, maybe a little bit later. But that's in my blood. It's like the kid in the classroom who wants to get the rumor first, right? You want to be the one that's, telling someone else something that they don't know. There's there's an intoxication of that feeling. And I would love to find something that captures that, but does it in a format that I'm comfortable with. I wasn't comfortable in local TV anymore.
Yeah, man. Well, and again, that's done with sets. I think, when I look at a guy like you, I'm like, you don't need one show. You need like 3 or 4.
I would love it.
And there's something happening. There's a movement happening, and they call it affiliate marketing, right? So at the end of the day, there's affiliate marketing, and then there's NIL deals, and they're kind of one and the same. NILs for people that actually have a name, image, and likeness value that they know what the value is. It's been assigned.
Yeah.
And then there's everybody else that's kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm in the figuring out group.
See, you may say that, but I would say it would be very easy to define what the value actually is. If we sat down, it would take literally like a couple hours to really figure that out. But like, I would love to. I don't know if
you're hired.
I don't know if the looking back. That's right. Boom.
We just did a business deal.
That's right. Ching, ching.
I love it.
I need the button. I need the sound effect of money. The cash register going off.
Well, right now it's an empty piggy bank that you'll hear, but we'll fix that.
We'll fix it. We're going to fill it up. You need. I definitely think there's a. Well, all right. So literally around town in Nashville right now, there's billboards, like there's dozens of them of Purity with pictures with their old posters of Ernest that were on billboards in the 80s and 90s.
Isn't that crazy?
Really the 80s.
Yeah.
And they brought them back. Well, guess what? What's the difference in Purity hiring Jim Varney or Ernest to rep their product, right, versus like literally like we just we got a new deal with the Vibe board. Yep. It's the exact same thing.
And how smart is Purity for doing that? Because it's like all those kids that identified with those characters when they were little, well, they all have kids now.
That's right.
And the fact that you're actually turning back the clock like that and connecting with them on that level from their childhood, genius marketing.
I agree so much. And like when I look at that, there's a big movement going on. So especially like, Nashville's a huge market. Yeah. Okay. So, there's local TV and there's national and worldwide TV, but the local influence is extremely valuable, especially Absolutely. In this town.
Yep.
So like there's a big opportunity for you because and nothing against the anchors out there, but like there was, when you look at the last 30 years across all the new stations, there's only like 5 or 6 names that you remember.
Right.
Okay. The rest of them kind of like, and some of them have been retired 2 decades.
Right.
Some of them, like, when did Bill Hall leave? You know what I mean? Like decades ago.
Right. Rest in peace, Bill, and Dan Miller. Rest in peace as well. Like, yeah. These were voices that I heard 30 years ago when I first moved to town, and I was just like in awe. Yeah. Like, wow. And I think what's happened, Nick, is that like you can now take a Nashville newscast, pluck it up, and take it to any city in the U.S. and drop it down, and no one would know the difference, right? Yeah. And I think we live in such a unique and historic and significant area. We need to identify with that. We need to turn back and start looking in on that, and start capitalizing on that, and start having conversations about why.
Jerry House was recognized nationally,
absolutely.
Even though it was a local DJ. So like, that's the thing is like, even like now I used to love listening to, there was an LA radio station when I first got satellite radio years ago. I used to listen to that in the mornings because they had an awesome thing going on. So I lived in LA on my commute in the mornings, right? Yeah. It was kind of cool. Well, Nashville's now that market.
Yeah.
Okay. And nothing, there's nothing wrong with the Bobby Bones and the people that are kind of doing it, but like they weren't Nashville. They were they're transplants.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Like 30 years, you were what people did every day for 30 years.
Right.
That's literally how they started their day.
Right.
I did even growing up in school and everything else. So there is, not only do you appeal here, but it's all the people that want a piece of Nashville in the morning. It's like, dude, so the local thing is a national draw is what I'm trying to get at.
I think you're absolutely right. I think Nashville has an appeal that is farther than our borders.
Yep.
And yeah, God, you bring up Jerry House. I was talking to his son-in-law, Shane Talent, the other day, and Jerry redefined this town in many ways, right? Mm-hmm. And the people he would bring on, and the way he would be so salty to some people, and it was like he developed a relationship with the artists that made you feel like you knew the artists in a way that you would never ever get on a red carpet interview, on a staged interview.
Yep.
And it's that ability to do that, to make that magic with people by twisting it just a little bit. They're poking them in just a little area that they never were poked before, and that doesn't happen anymore. Everything's so canned. Everything's so, done by publicists and stuff like that, and you really never get to know these artists. And anyone that has a hit song in this town, there's a special story behind them, right? And it's a story you're only going to hear through a format like this, where you can really kind of go one way, a different way, and kind of poke at them at different angles there to get them to kind of to open up their bag of tricks and tell you what really happened for them to get here.
Oh yeah,
so it's amazing that way. But you know what? I was asked to do the Easter Seals Nashvilleian of the Year awards again, and what an honor that is to be invited back to do something that you thought you were only asked to do because you were a local news anchor, and that I think it goes to what you're saying right now, and it's like you only have the value that you assign yourself, right? No one's going to do it for you. And most of us assign too low a value to ourselves personally.
Facts.
And if you do that, you're cheating only you.
You're never going to outperform your own self-image, right?
You said that earlier. That's so true.
Well, so there's I want to hear directly from you what you're going after. But when I see her today, I'm like, dude, you need a segment or a show that talks about there's 29 years worth of stories, guests, people I'm sure the people that are no longer with us, it's the historic country people in country music, the historic faces that came through here, and those iconic people. And
you're part of that history too. I mean, you grew up in the business as well. So
I did.
And when you see it disappearing in front of your very eyes, and you know that once it's gone, it's gone.
Well, everything goes and comes, right? Yeah. So everything that was awesome about Nashville 20 to 30 years ago, well, guess what? It's awesome again, and now it's just spread because Nashville's a national treasure, right? Nashville's a national treasure. So,
you remember when Lower Broadway was all the artists of the day had places down there, and then all of a sudden it all went away, and now all of a sudden Lower Broadway's all the artists of the day.
Right. That's right.
Once again,
that's right.
It's incredible how you're right. We cycle in and out of these different phases,
no doubt. But again, and I don't want to give away the playbook here, but I even saw a thing with I hadn't heard. I thought the Nashville Banner died decades ago, and now is it Demetrius? It's a podcast now,
right?
You know what I mean?
It just goes back. It's just a different form, and congratulations to her for getting that up and going. And I remember when the Nashville Banner disappeared. I was upset because it was like an important media voice in the afternoon that vanished, right? And then all of a sudden you have fewer choices to get your news, and then all of a sudden that gets cut down. I picked up a paper the other day, and it was just a few pages there. And I realized, wow, it has been years since I actually picked up a newspaper.
That's right.
And looked at it. Everything's online, right? So, and everything's custom tailored to what we were looking at earlier. That's right. And you're only seeing what they want you to see.
That's right. That's right. And so, all right. So I would love to see and you could do it for years, just looking back at the craziest things, the craziest interviews, it's kind of like when Letterman's kind of big for this, when he would show when they bring Jack Hanna would bring all the animals that he didn't want to touch. And it's hilarious when you look back at those things to see what people looked like. And it's memory lane. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see you commenting on stuff daily. Dude, there's a big open market right now, as well, where, they used to hire the celebrities to host things, just like they do for the Oscars or the Emmys or the CMA Awards and all those things. Well, now there's so many things happening. what personalities can you get? Because there's influencers polluting the market.
Right.
Like
it's crazy. Most of the times I go someplace and watch a host, I don't even recognize the person. But then I find out, oh yeah, they have 1 million followers on Instagram and they're the biggest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
It's remarkable what's happened out there. And the fact is that, it's easy to find someone to host an event these days. I could find a popular podcaster to host an event, and most of those people are willing to do it because you know what? When you're in this land, you have to make things happen for yourself. They ain't going to happen for you.
That's right.
So,
hey, pardon this quick interruption, but it's a good one. You're listening to this ad right now, which means someone else could be listening to your ad in this exact spot. That's right. If you've got a business, a brand, a product, a podcast, or even just a message you want people to hear, you should be advertising right here on the Hitstreak. This is the moment, the placement, the audience, and you're already hearing how powerful it is. So don't just listen to ads, run one. Go to nickhyder.com/contact-me or click the link in the show notes to get started. Let's put your brand in the spotlight right where it belongs. Is there anything that sticks out to you that you guys have the podcast, Not the News Right Now, right? Which I think is fantastic. It's a great entry to barrier.
Yeah. And I think that's what both Nikki and I look at it. It's just, it's a good way to kind of keep the chops going, to keep mentally fit. We're working on just, doing it once a week, get some guests in there. We've talked about blowing it up and doing something that's happening 5 times a week. Everything is on the table right now regarding
you and Carrie need a video blog, by the way.
So Carrie and I have talked about that too, and she gets on me a lot. She's like, why haven't you made this happen yet? Because we do have fascinating conversations, and they are not just about news, and they are not just about aesthetics. Mm-hmm. But you want to take a young relationship, and you want to like throw the kitchen sink at it. Well, start a business together, and let me tell you what, you're going to exercise muscles in your brain that you never knew you even had. Mm-hmm. And you are going to have discussions that you thought we're having discussions that a couple married 40 years has, not a couple that's been together 3 years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that's going to happen. We are purposely building a podcast studio in her office.
That's so smart.
She gave her CFO a closet for an office. You got to come by and see it sometime. It is a closet. So
can't wait.
People don't even know I'm there. I'm just in the closet. But I think our daily life, she's like, this should be a reality show. That's just the stuff that we're doing and getting into on a daily basis. If we had cameras following us around, because it's never the same.
Well, you guys are always at an event or with somebody or doing something like you guys always have somewhere to be. Yeah. And then, the people that you're working with are people of influence that people keep up with and everything else. So yeah, I think that,
have you ever spent a weekend with someone who is a massive media, social influencer, like with Aaron Oprea, at these triathlons? You don't understand. If you think that's easy, the amount of work that goes into that, Nick, I literally blown away. Mm-hmm. She might be the hardest working person I know, and her husband, Sean, same. They are purposeful, they are never off, and they are working hard at it, but still they manage to take time for themselves.
That's interesting you said that, because you're doing so many things. That's an easy way to get into doing something like that, is just pick one thing like triathlons, and you're just going to be the face to cover because where I was going a minute ago was there was when country music had TNN and even when CMT
Nashville
became
now,
more local, and so there was the
Ralph Emery show,
the Ralph Emery, Crook and Chase, even Stormy Warman and those guys. Yeah. I feel like Stormy's gotten smaller in the last 10 years than he was.
It's fascinating. Stormy, I think, is more virtual than he's ever been before. When you're the face of Sirius XM, the highway, right? That's a certain elevation, and when that was taken away from him, and he got picked up with Garth, I think he has more influence in this town than he has ever had.
Wow. Okay.
Before.
That's cool. Good for him, man.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of his.
He was, when I first left Channel 2, he and I went to an event together, World War II documentary that was released. And I had the most fascinating conversation with him because he was like, I literally walked into, I was at an event in Dallas and I was informed that I'm no longer needed. And all of a sudden my life changed. He's like, in that instant. And I was like, I feel the exact same way, but I pulled the cord here on this one, but he put me in a frame of mind that really helped me in those initial few weeks of starting over again and going in a new direction there. But I do feel like, he's always going to have a voice in this town.
Yeah.
He's earned that.
Sure.
But I think his influence is absolutely monolithic.
And that may be right in their game plan, but for a guy that don't know, that only gets bits and pieces of him, like, why isn't, based on where you could see what he was being groomed to be, why isn't he like seriously, why isn't he hosting on the red carpet and bringing people in and introducing folks at the podium and all that kind of stuff, right? So I feel like in Nashville, I think that's going to be 3 to 5 faces that are going to submit themselves for that, and I really want to see that for you.
Yeah.
I think one, you'd be really good at it, but two, there's very few people that when they reintroduce themselves, they reintroduce themselves as a bigger version than they were prior. And I think that is going to be who you are. It's almost like there was News 2 Neil, and then but this new Neil is larger than life, dude.
Right.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's night and day different.
Yeah.
But there's just so much going on in this town. There needs to be there's a middleman that's not connecting the Neils with the people that need the Neils.
Right.
There's a gap there,
and that's partially my fault. I'm staying unfocused. I do need to focus down, and that's part of my little journey here of first of all, rebranding. It's an overused word, but restarting my life again and getting in shape physically and getting in shape emotionally and getting prepared for this moment. And I do feel like now that the triathlon phase is behind me, although I'm still going to do it, but now I'm experienced at it. And now that Carrie's business is really starting to roll out, now all my excuses has dried up, and it's time for me to start focusing in on what I'm going to be doing here for the next 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's exciting to me. I look forward to it. Nikki and I were just shooting the breeze the other day after we had finished up our podcast, and I said, I just had this premonition that we're going to be on the red carpet again. I was like, and I would honor that opportunity because I appreciate it so much more now.
Yeah.
When I was doing it at the time, I was always getting frustrated, and the interviews weren't going the way you wanted them to. Now I'm like, you know what? If I were back there, I'd be a totally different person. And I look forward to that. I think it's going to happen. So.
Well, like I say, I can see it. I don't know exactly what it's called or who is the one that connects everything. Maybe that those people exist, and I just haven't found out about them yet. But they're not. If I haven't found out about them, and I've been here this whole time, like there's some work to be done.
There is some work to be done.
But yeah, you can feel it. There's just a gap in the market that the Jerry Houses, that the Charlie Chase, that the Lori Ann Crook and Charlie Chases of the world, that the Neil Orns and the Bill Halls and and Ann Holtz and the Demetria Kaladimos and those folks, the Dan Millers, that they filled.
Yeah.
And they're not. It's not there. It's not being filled. That cup is not being filled right now.
Right.
And now it's got to be filled in a totally different way than it was filled before.
Sure.
That's the thing. And
let's go.
But I do feel like it's going to take somebody that I don't think a new face could fill it properly. I think somebody that has the relationship with the town will be the one that actually introduces the new faces that will follow. Right. That's, in my opinion, that's how it's going to go.
That to me was one of the most incredible things when I first moved to this town, is that you find people that move here with nothing and a dream and a hope just to make it, just to get by. And I'd love to tell those stories again, because gosh, when you're down on Lower Broadway and you see someone that's good on the stage, and then 2 years later they're opening up on the CMAs and stuff, I want to find those people.
That's right.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
That's exactly right.
All right. Well, let's put the word out there that I'm looking for that opportunity, Nick.
Yeah, man. So if you didn't know, Neil Orne is for hire.
I am for hire.
That's right.
That's right.
Now, and he ain't cheap. Let me just throw that out there. He ain't cheap.
I ain't cheap.
No, but he's definitely for hire. And and again, folks, you got to have the right people.
I didn't know this was going to turn into a job interview, Nick, but I love it.
I'm telling you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like I'm good with people. I have a really good concentration. My handwriting's good. I'm like all that stuff. I think I'm good at.
Man, well, and it is kind of cool because again, you are in physically and mentally and spiritually, you're in a better place than you were when we were looking at you on the screen every day.
Yeah.
You literally look younger. You're able to wear what you want to wear, have the facial hair you want to wear, and like you just, it's we actually get to see Neil, not News 2 Neil,
right?
We actually get to see Neil,
right?
And
I haven't worn makeup in 6 months.
How about that, baby? How about that? That's what I'm talking about. So what is your message to men or anybody in their midlife? Literally me. What would be your message?
I think the message is that if you're not feeling complete satisfaction in where you are, maybe it is time to change course or change what you're doing within the course that you chose. And I think the problem is that we hesitate, and again, we try to let opportunity come to us, and it's never going to do that. Opportunity is something you have to chase. Dreams don't come to you. You create dreams, and it's why it's called chasing dreams. You have to actually do the chasing. But I think the thing is that there's such a remarkable opportunity when you get to be 59, 58, 59. I'm 59 now.
That's crazy to me, dude. Like for real. I watched you all these years and I didn't put it together until you told me that you were 59 years old.
Right.
In my mind, you were just a few years older than me.
Inside my body, I feel like I'm 30 again. I have the energy. I have more energy than I was 30. But I think it's not too late. Just get going again. You have all this knowledge. You have all these years. Stop hanging up the cleats and saying I'm done. Time to get going again, because it's so much better than just sitting around waiting to die.
Man,
and I know that's early to say when you're 59, but trust me, you start thinking that way.
Well, it takes a long time to sit around and die. People start at 59 sitting around to die.
I felt that way. At least that's where my mindset was. I was looking to slow everything down. I was accepting the fact that I was where I was at, and I'm just gonna stay doing the morning news until they say they no longer want you. In your mind, you're making all these subconscious decisions about the direction of your life, when really you have to get very conscious about your decisions and make decisions that, again, stir things up, get the blood going, take care of yourself, turn the clock back, because it's all out there for the taking.
There's a big time spiritual message in here, because I heard a pastor say from the pulpit one time, God won't steer a parked car. Like, you got to get in and drive. And again, and it was like, even in the animated movie that just came out for Easter about the resurrection of Jesus, it was great because like even then they were like, why isn't the miracle happening? They're like, because you have to believe first. That's right. You have to have faith. Right. Faith is the thing, right? Right. When you have the faith, then the miracles can happen. So
pray with purpose.
That's right.
Like absolutely don't be that parked car. I think that's a brilliant way to say it.
Well, you said it before. You're like waiting for that next opportunity to come to you. When you just have to move, and when you create that movement, that's when the things start entering, and you can make those decisions, right? That's when God puts that next great gift in your life, is because you've already got in the car. You said, all right, I'm not just sitting here waiting on you to drive it for me. I'm going to push the pedal, having faith that you're going to steer.
The high wire gets a lot more exciting when you take away the net. It does. And sometimes life forces you to pull the net. And that's what I did. And like I mentioned earlier when we were talking, the fact is that I don't know what's coming next. I don't know if it will be successful. I feel like it will be successful.
No doubt.
But it's such a refreshing way to wake up every morning, having that desire again that was kind of dormant. And
that pressure is going to bring something out of you that fell asleep a long time ago.
A long time ago.
So, well, dude, like, I appreciate, like, I kept you here forever. We've been going an hour and a half. Can you believe that?
It doesn't feel like it.
I'm telling you.
I'm proud of you. You're turning into a big time voice in this format, Nick, and what you're doing and giving people a chance to speak their mind and talk about things that are important to all of us. I just Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
I appreciate it. Well, I'm really excited I'm really excited for everything you got going on. I want to be involved. I want to be involved.
I want you involved.
A lot.
I want to come back here and sit down with you and have another discussion since this one, and talk about all the things that have happened since, and how things took shape. That's going to be a fun conversation that we're going to have.
Well, we talked about all opportunities. There's just, again, even people like me that are figuring things out in the world of advertising, and being somebody that companies actually are attracted to, say, hey, would you rep our product or pitch our product or use our product? You have tons and tons and tons of experience, and what I've learned, especially here at the Hit Lab with our clients talking about their social media stuff, is like, dude, there's so much strategy that is not happening across the board. Again, getting started is everything, but even then, the best at anything in the world are the most detail oriented.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's funny. I'll use my dad for instance. I talk about my dad in great light on this show all the time, but I'm going to pick at him just for a little bit. Yeah. So, Dad, sorry. With that, so it's with the trust in, let's just take the food industry. My dad always says, I'm not going to be lying in the hospital bed dying of nothing. He said that's his thing. But it's funny, the same.
My dad said that.
Did he really?
He said, I don't want to be old. I don't want people taking care of me. I get it.
Oh yeah, that's it. And he's so, I'm like, Dad, if because we eat really, really clean. There's a lot of stuff that we just don't. We changed a lot of things in our lifestyle to make sure that the next 40 years are as good as the first 40.
Absolutely.
And he'll make a comment like, well, that's I'm going to do I'm going to eat this, or I'm so old it doesn't matter. But it's like, man, but if I told him to work with my son, my son on his grandson on his baseball swing, he would give him major league level descriptive feedback.
Yeah.
Versus the food that you put in your body, it's like there's no details. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he's very detail oriented one place and not on the other.
Yeah.
And the best at anything are the ones that do the smallest things. The little things are the big things. They're the expert at all those things. The expert at anything was once a beginner, but they have all the details and all that stuff. Dude, I
can piggyback on that too.
Come on.
I say, you know what? You walked through the darkness to find your way. Now you're my flashlight walking through this, because now I can see what's ahead, right? And that's the thing. Find someone to emulate and do that, because obviously whatever they're doing is the right thing there. But man, I'll tell you,
folks, if you have an audience of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of people, and you don't know how to leverage your influence with that audience to help people and brands or companies, basically you're just taking people that you have influence over and you're saying, hey, this is something you might need to know about. Check it out. I would say, Neil, there's a business there for you, because you probably could say, if I'd have met you 2 years ago, you could save me a lot of time, because where I'm at now, it took me 2 years to figure it out. You probably could have helped me out in 90 days.
Well, there's that Tim McGraw song that ends with "Turn around and help the next man up," and that's kind of where we are. And it's amazing opportunity that's happening out there right now.
You've just got a lot of skill set that it's hard to give it value because it's so rare when it comes up. But seriously, folks, if you have an audience, you might want to consider reaching out to Neil and getting him to be your strategist or coach or whatever you want to call it, because he knows what brands are looking for.
That's funny. I am working on a camera confidence course with one of my former coworkers.
Let's go.
Yep. And you like all that stuff is out there. Now listen, when I get going, I want a picture with my hand on my chin like that.
I know the photographer.
Do you know the photographer?
I know the photographer, and it was in that hallway right there, right outside. You can see the lights on the top of the on the ceiling up there.
Well, it was funny that the promotion picture that you put out with this was actually taken by Jensen here. Just one day I was in the office just to meet with you, to talk with you a little bit, and he just sat me down and he just started taking a few pictures of me because he had set something up. That's my publicity picture. I feel like I owe him money.
Let's go. Let's go. Jensen's like, the invoice is coming. Yeah. Invoice is coming. Well, Neil, dude, your relationship that I'm probably like most excited about right now. And my wife and I were talking about the other day. I was like, we have our ride or die go-tos people that when we get 5 minutes and we're going to go out and eat, we call them, we make plans and stuff. And you and Carrie were like, we need to get them in that mix. You know what I mean? Because we're not hanging out with you guys near enough. Every time we do something cool happens and an opportunity arises.
You took us to that prayer breakfast that one time, and when we left that, I was like, this is what I like.
Yep.
This is what I like. It was an amazing event. And it was so fun to share with friends, right?
Mm-hmm. You need to be hosting that sucker next year, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That was the Tennessee State Prayer Breakfast.
Yeah,
Neil Orne should be the face of that sucker. I don't know. You'd sign a multi-year deal.
Did you
say
sucker and prayer breakfast in the same sentence? Can you do that?
He should be the face of that breakfast. Of that breakfast. And you'd sign a multi-year deal for that, wouldn't you?
I would.
Yeah.
I would. I'm up for multi-year deals.
That's right. That's right. Well, dude, congratulations on a hell of a life, an incredible career, and big time congratulations on the confidence, the energy, the audacity to get out and go and do what you're doing, man. It's fun to watch. All I can tell you is, you said it's been 6 months since you left News 2. All right, dude. Well, time's ticking. It's time to go.
Every single time I turn around, something bigger happens. Today is no different.
That's right.
Thank you, man. It is time to go. Let's go. As you always respond in my texts, let's go.
Let's go with a lot of O's. With a lot of O's. Let's goes. Well, folks, Emmy Award-winning journalist, former news anchor, CFO of KBEAUTÉ, and media entrepreneur, media mogul, I should say. Neil Orne, absolutely. Well, you truly are, and it's time that people start treating you like
I'm
one.
a media speed bump looking to become a mogul. Thanks, buddy.
I love it. Finding the right health plan can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Backed by over 12 years of experience and more than 20 national and local awards, Team Hyder is here to help you navigate your options and choose a plan that fits your family's needs and your budget. So whether you're looking for individual coverage, family plans, or even Medicare options, Team Hyder brings expert guidance with heart. Visit teamhyder.com today to schedule your consultation and get the coverage that you deserve. Folks, check him out online on social media at Neil Orne. Neilorne, just like you saw it on TV for 30 years, baby. It's insane. It's insane. And dude, thanks for you opened up some really personal stuff about the family and everything else. This is really cool. This is something we need to do on the regular. And I don't know. I keep pitching that in my head. I keep saying, how do I pitch Neil that I want to do a show with him?
You know what? Right there. Let's work on it. Let's start spitballing as soon as you turn off these cameras right here. But I would love to do a show with you.
Let's do it.
So many more things to say.
Absolutely. Well, folks, once again, Emmy Award-winning journalist, former news anchor, CFO of KBEAUTÉ, media entrepreneur, Neil Orne. Neil, it's a pleasure to call you friend. Thank you for the time, baby.
Thanks, Nick.
Folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hitstreak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.